SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, coronavirus, call it what you like, it is causing worldwide chaos. If you're an employer, do you have first aid qualified staff that are currently in self-isolation, leaving you first aiderless? Is that a word? It is now. Do you have staff whose qualifications are about to or have expired? Did you have training planned for said staff which has now been cancelled? Anything you can do about this in the workplace? What if you're someone who organises events? You had events planned, these have all been cancelled now. Can you get first aid cover when they get rebooked into the calendar? Well, stick around because I'm going to give you the answer to these questions any second now. Because this coronavirus situation was rapidly escalating and there was absolutely no sign of it getting better anytime soon, I took it on myself to cancel all Beyond First Aid's training until June the 1st at the very earliest. Now, hear what you're saying. Some companies, large and small, have said, cancel March, we'll start training again in April. Well, it's April already. April Fool's has been and gone, and there's no sign of any kids going back to school yet, is there? It's going to get worse before it gets better. That's a sad fact. And I took this decision before the PM Bojo decided he was going to ground us all for being naughty boys and girls and not doing what we were told to do in the first place. It's going to cost me money. Tough. The safety of my customers and my staff is far more important than a few pounds in the bank. Thank you very much. Luckily, Beyond First Aid can weather this storm for a while. Some other companies may not be so lucky and they may end up going the same way as a famous boat from the White Star Line, and we all know how that ended. So what else? I've told everyone I am withdrawing my offer of first aid cover for their events. I'm not happy sending my staff, or myself for that matter, into huge or small crowds where people are coughing and sneezing all over them, gloves, masks or not. Sadly, their and my safety would be dependent upon the actions of some idiots, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my staff or myself. I need us all to be fit and healthy when this thing gets back to normal, whatever normal may be after all of this. Now, I'm going to be keeping people updated on this thing on YouTube and also via email. That will be, of course, on first aid training, not the virusy thing. That said, here's a question for you. If you are genuinely interested in the virusy thing and want to know more from a medical guy, not Facebook facts or Twitter tosh, can I ask you to put your comments down below and I will get back to you, maybe even this week. No, it's Friday, next week. Now back to the workplace first aid things. If your first aid cover in the workplace is sadly lacking in manpower all of a sudden, or the training you had planned for staff has been cancelled, by us or for anyone else that matter, then what do? Are you going to find yourself on the wrong side of the law and in trouble with the health and safety executive if you don't have first aiders in your workplace? Well, the first thing you need to do is review your assessment of first aid needs. Take a look at your risk assessments. How many first aiders do you need for the staff you've currently got left? As if fewer people are coming into the workplace, you're going to need fewer first aiders. Are you still doing high risk activities? If not, again, you may not need as many first aiders or as highly qualified first aiders. Also, did you know if you share an office block with other businesses or you rent a unit on an industrial estate, you can share first aiders. So long as those first aiders know what they're doing, they are qualified to do it. Do not get someone with emergency first aid at work to look after your office with 200 people in it. Likewise, do not get someone who's got paediatric first aid to look after a factory that's making big sharp metal objects that go flying across the room. These shared first aiders must be aware of the type of whoopsies that are going to occur in your workplace, and they must be able to fix and mend said whoopsies. It's also handy if these new first aiders to your area know where your first aid kits are kept, because they're all nicely signed, aren't they? And on this point, lastly, they cannot offer first aid to you if they are leaving their workplace sadly lacking in first aiders. That's kind of defeating the object. So what about certificates? You know, you can't do this first aid thing at all if you haven't got a certificate that's in date. Well, the good old HSE have said, and I quote, if you hold a first aid certificate that expires on or after the 16th of March 2020, so a fortnight ago, and cannot access requalification training, then you may qualify for a 3-month extension. Now this applies to offshore medics, offshore first aid at work and emergency first aid at work. To qualify for this, you must be able to show the HSE what steps you have taken to try and get the training and why you couldn't requalify earlier. So you can't get the requalification because your training has all been cancelled because of coronavirus. Solution: show them an email from me because you've contacted me to ask to book training in advance. I will reply to you saying as soon as there is a place, as soon as the world is back to normal, you will get your training. But what if you have already started a course and you couldn't finish it because of the virus? Well, as soon as the virusy thing is all sorted, you can restart your training almost where you left off. We will have to go over the bits you've already done, but once we've done that very briefly, we can continue where you left off and finish your training. But you need to contact me sooner rather than later because there's going to be a bit of a rush. So yes, you can carry on your training where you left off after the COVID-19 enforced tea break has finished. So when can we start training people again? Honestly, I have no idea. It's actually impossible to say, but being realistic and knowing about virusy things and infection transmission, don't hold your breath. The thing is, every time I see kids walking down the road or pushing their push bikes down the road with a group of their friends, not in self-isolation, or I see white van man driving down the road wearing his mask and his gloves and his little pinny that he used to do home economics in when he was 15, then I add extra days onto my calendar because this is increasing the amount of time we're going to take to get back to normal. Normal. What is that going to be? So like I said, when things get back to whatever normal is, there's going to be a surge of people asking for first aid training. Don't do this to us and yourselves. Let me know now. I can get a back to work program in place and contact you as soon as it can be implemented. And also remember, you don't have to send all your staff to me. If you've got 4 or more, I can come to you, making life a little bit easier for you, hopefully. Again, don't panic. Get in touch soon. The HSE, the Department of Education and myself have got our fingers on the old proverbial virus pulse. Right, so we'll get back to the training. It restarts infection control. People are going to be worried about catching nasty stuff off people because they haven't seen people forever. First aid, in case you didn't know, is a very touchy-feely subject. It's a very, very hands-on thing. There's touching other people, there's rolling around on the floor with people, there's rolling people on the floor, there's you being rolled around on the floor. There's even lip bumping at one point in the first aid courses. That currently though is limited to mannequins only. Coming beyond the first aid course, there always has been and always will be hand washing facilities. Yes, we've even got toilet roll in the loos. Crazy, I know. We just rock and roll here at Beyond First Aid. Mannequin hygiene is and always has been a very high priority for us. Let's face it, if you're doing first aid in the real world with real people, there is a very strong chance there may be bodily fluids flying about the place. Why train like it's going to be any different? When training we use gloves, we use masks, so it's almost like we've done it before for 30 odd years. So moving quickly on, if you like what you've heard so far, subscribe to the channel, come back and learn some more. But what's coming up next, Steve? I hear you shout at your mobile, your laptop, or your big HD TV. HD? Can you mention this on a big screen? Oof. Well, I'm going to be working my way through the complete first aid manual from start to finish. We've already covered a bit of hygiene and what stops people from doing first aid in the first place, and we're going to be moving on. However, if there is something you want to learn about in particular, leave us a little note in the comment section below. That's the lines of text below the subscribe button and the bell button that you're going to knock on. Just do it. See you later.